Thank you so much, Laura and Dave. Thanks everybody for showing up again. Laura said, I'm Roger Grimes. The big thing is I've been doing this forever, like 34 years, earned all of these great hairs, written books, magazine articles. There's some of my books. My latest one was the Ransomware Protection Playbook. And I'm certainly going to kind of talk about how to defend yourself against ransomware groups, all kinds of other hackers and malware. I worked for KnowBe4. We're the world's largest security awareness training and simulated phishing platform vendor, which just means we try to teach people how to avoid being socially engineered, which is a good thing because a lot of hacking today is social engineering. So we're going to talk about how and why hackers hack, why fighting phishing is important, and then your best practice defenses. And if I'm losing you, you're falling asleep, you definitely want to pay attention to the best practice defenses, because I'm going to tell you the 4 or 5 things that you need to do to protect yourself, your family, and your organization against getting hacked. And if you pay attention and do a good job at those 4 or 5 things that I tell you, you're far less likely to be hacked. But thanks for joining me on this journey for the next 40 minutes or so. By the way, I talk this fast all the time. It's just the way that I do. I got a lot of information. So probably one of the most common questions people have is, like, why did the hackers hack me? Like, people are saying, my company's small, I don't have as much money as, them attacking, somebody else with, bazillions of dollars. Why did they attack my company or me or my family? And the answer is, most of the time, it's just that you were randomly selected. It was that you were what we call a victim of opportunity. The scammers and social engineers and stuff are literally just sending out tens of millions of phishing emails every day and hundreds of millions of malware programs trying to break in. And on that particular day, if you got hacked, it was because you or somebody else, around you, accidentally responded to a social engineering email, and you clicked on a link that you shouldn't have clicked on, or they clicked on a link that they shouldn't have clicked on, or you didn't have your software patched and a malware program, came by and tested that particular vulnerability that day. So the vast majority of people that are hacked, it really was kind of just random, just almost accidental, but they were able to break in, either the hacker or their malware program. Yeah, you can be targeted, meaning that an attacker, let me go back there, that you could have a human-based hacker specifically target you or your organization. It isn't nearly as common though. Although let me say, it's more common than it used to be. The last couple of years have really been kind of more targeted attacks than ever, but really the number of targeted attacks is probably many tens of thousands a year, and the number of victim of opportunity attacks are millions a day. So comparatively, far less targeting. But what's interesting to know is the 4 or 5 things I'm going to tell you to protect yourself will protect you against the victim of opportunity attacks and the targeted attacks. And if you do them well, you'll do a better job at trying to prevent both. The next question people usually ask me is, why did they hack me? Besides it being, kind of almost a random event. And really it has to do, most of them are looking for money, to get value, to steal money of some sort. What's the famous quote from supposedly bank robber back in the 1920s, Willie Sudden? Supposedly, some reporter asked him, why are you robbing banks? And he said, that's where the money is. Well, apparently that's a fake quote, but it's certainly, if you're going to ask yourself, why are most hackers hacking? Why are most criminals doing what they're doing? Most of it's financially motivated. And, they'll try to steal your identity or steal your credit card information or, whatever it takes to do to get money, to rob your bank account, your stock account, hold your company, ransomware extortion or something like that. It's to get money. And I don't know what the percentages are on this, like how much of it is financially motivated versus these other things I'm going to tell you. But if I was to take my best guess from doing this for 34 years, I would think about 95% of all hacking is related to someone trying to steal something of value from somebody else. We are seeing a lot more nation-state attackers these days. Every sufficiently capable country today hacks and attacks their adversaries. But it's been that way forever, for decades. What's different today is you have countries attacking each other's business, organizations, and people. It used to be that these nation-state attackers, let me say the main ones, United States is a nation-state attacker, Russia, North Korea, Iran, and China. It used to be that nation-state attackers would attack each other trying to learn government or military secrets or attack, contractors of the same. But these days, the most common organization attacked by another foreign government is a regular company. And usually, I'm saying many times, to still value. Russia is responsible for the vast majority of ransomware. So, America, the NSA and, the FBI and stuff, they attack other countries, but they don't put in ransomware in some business computer and ask for $1 million to unlock it, right? They're still looking for government and military secrets. China is stealing as much intellectual property as they can, and they have for decades. Iran and North Korea are breaking in to get money. So Iran, North Korea, and Russia very much about stealing money and doing things they can do to get money to help, drive revenue in their country. But there's other reasons, right? They're also positioning themselves in case there's some type of wider cyber war, shut down, a country's infrastructure or something like that. But again, today, the number one nation state target is a regular company. We still do see corporate espionage where a competitor of yours may be interested in learning about, you're getting your customer list or learning about contract information or loan details or something like that. A lot of times employees will leave one company, go to another competing company, and then the older company forgot to remove their login credentials, and so they'll break in doing that. Sometimes trusted insiders will attack their company. Usually these trusted insiders are really usually started out as well-meaning, highly motivated, unfortunately highly emotional employees, but somewhere along the way they felt wronged. And they're either trying to get revenge, or they're trying to get some financial gain, and they attack their own company. Years ago, when I was the VP of IT, there was a woman that worked for me on our help desk, and I asked her in an annual review, what would you like to be? And she said a database administrator. And so I spent years sending her to database administration classes, and I tripled her salary. And then 3 years later, we found out she was actually taking our customers' credit cards and buying Dell laptops and network equipment and having them shipped to her house. So she was robbing our customers. And to this day, I don't know why, because I really liked her. I mentored her, and I thought the feeling was mutual. Maybe it was. I don't know. I didn't talk to her after she got arrested. But, I always wonder, like, I tripled her salary. Why was she still robbing from the company? I don't know. People have their own motivations and that sort of stuff. But a lot of insider attacks still going on. Gamers are kind of in a weird niche in that a lot of gamers, will attack other gamers. So they're playing against, these first-person shoot-'em-up games, and they'll look to, defeat their competitor a lot of times by doing what's called denial of service attacks, which is sending all of this bogus traffic against the competitor to slow the competitor down so that they can, have an unfair advantage in the game and shoot them more easily than they can shoot them or something. Sometimes they're stealing gaming credits, and most of the games today, you can earn, weapons and supplies and money and materials, and it really is things of value. You either pay for them or you earn them through your gaming accomplishments. And there's a lot of malware. There literally are hundreds of millions of malware programs that go around the world, and if they break into your computer, they'll look to see if you play a particular game, and if so, they'll steal those gaming credits, and then they'll resell them on the black market for cheap. They even do things called swatting attacks, which is really weird. This is when a gamer gets mad at another gamer, and they look up that gamer's home address, and then they send the police department. They actually will fake a phone call to that person's local police department and say, they'll claim to be that person and claim they're shooting up everybody and, come and get me, coppers, or they're a victim hiding in a closet and the person's a mass murderer or something. And the SWAT teams will respond. And it's actually ended up, swatting attacks have killed 2 people. In both cases, the kid that sent the SWAT team sent them to the old mailing address of their competitor. The competitor had moved, but they didn't know that. And the SWAT team showed up at the wrong house. And in one case, one of the SWAT team members shot somebody. In another case, the guy just saw the SWAT team, was told to get on the ground. He had a heart attack and died. But this is really, that literally happens thousands of times a year. When I worked at Microsoft for 12 years, our Xbox managers got swatted so much that in Redmond, Washington and Seattle, Washington, the SWAT teams would keep a list of Microsoft employee names and say, hey, if you get a SWAT call, or a crisis call involving one of these names, you may want to slow down or verify it first before you send people there. We see a lot of theft of computer resources, especially around two things. One's called bots. A lot of people are complaining about their computer being really slow. They're like, oh, I hate Windows, or my network is so slow. I'm paying for this gigabit of internet bandwidth. My internet's so slow. And what they don't realize is their computers and their cable modems and their Wi-Fi routers are being used by the bad guys as what's called bots. They get taken over by malware, and then their resources are actually being used to attack other resources, or they're being used as a ransomware hub where thousands of ransomware bots are dialing in and being controlled by the hub, and that person just thinks their computer's so slow. But we see a lot of Bitcoin miner stuff. If you don't know about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, just know that it takes trillions of calculations to do that. It takes really fast computers, a lot of memory and hard drive space to mine Bitcoin to make money. These days, if you mine a single Bitcoin, you'll make about $30,000, but it takes money to make money mining. And so a lot of the hackers will actually, again, take over your computer, and you think your computer's just being slow, but what they've really done is installed a Bitcoin miner malware program on the computers at home or at work, and they're actually trying to mine Bitcoin. So we see a lot of that. We're seeing even an increase in that. Hacktivists are a big deal. There's a lot of social activists that are hackers that don't like what you or your company has done or the products that you produce or something, and so they will do anything they can to embarrass the companies they don't like, to bring them down, to cause financial harm, to cause public embarrassment. Probably a real common thing they do is what's called doxing, and doxing is where they break into a company and they try to find either embarrassing information that they release to the public, or they'll find confidential information and release it to the public and say, that's really common ransomware these days. They'll steal the information and put it out there on the internet. Or maybe they just do things like they'll release your picture and your home address and then tell protesters, to go to your home and protest. But, really, hacktivists is still, it's very much, if you're a company that might possibly be targeted by hacktivists, you have to watch out for these additional types of hackers. If you're lucky, supposedly, maybe all you did was get hit by adware. Adware is this malware malicious program that redirects your computer to visit websites that you didn't intend to visit. Sometimes what's happening. You can tell that something's controlling your browser and it's some weird browser add-in. And when you're trying to go, let's say you're trying to look at Elvis pictures, but you end up on cat videos, the computer's taking you to somewhere other than you intended to go. You thought you were going to Google to do something, but they took you to some weird search engine. Although sometimes they start a second hidden browser session and you don't even know that it's doing it. They're actually being paid by a legitimate company to drive web traffic to some legitimate company's website. Like that company just hired a marketing firm going, hey, we have this new product, we're releasing on the internet. Can you get, 1 million people to visit our website? And the marketing team's like, sure. And what they don't realize is that they are somehow affiliated with an adware person. Adware's like, oh yeah, pay me $10,000 and I'll drive 1 million hits. And what they don't realize, that guy's just, creating this malware program that's redirecting people's computers. So it looks like you're getting 1 million hits if you're the original company, but that company's probably going, wow, we got 1 million hits and we didn't sell any of our product. What's going on? But what I tell people is, a lot of people say, oh, it was only adware. It wasn't, like a malicious backdoor Trojan, or it wasn't, ransomware. I'm so lucky it was just adware. But you need to realize that, when you have adware on your computer, that means there's a hole in your environment. There's a hole in your computer defenses. And however they got in, whether it's social engineering, unpatched software, they knew your password or whatever, some other really bad hackers can get in. That hole, those vulnerabilities could be used by ransomware or something like that to break into your computer. So if you find any type of malware, even adware, pestware as we call it, it's something you need to be worried about. It means you've got a hole in your defenses that you need to figure out and close before something much worse, like a backdoor Russian Trojan program, doesn't take over your system. Hack the hobbyist. When I first got into fighting hackers back in 1987, for about a decade, the most common type of hacker was just these usually teenagers and young males, maybe up to the age of maybe 22, maybe 27, till they got real jobs. But it was just these kids trying to prove that they could do something. They didn't hurt things. They were just trying to prove they could do it. And that was what most of them were. There's very few hackers that were trying to format hard drives or steal information or something like that. It was just they got esteem from their peer group for doing it. Well, these days, the biggest change is that most hackers are professional. There are thousands of corporations around the world that exist just to hack you. They concentrate in America because we got resources, money, and computers. But there are thousands of companies around the world that, everybody that works for them, that's their day job, 9 to 5, is trying to steal money from you. Or there are professional organizations that work for a nation state trying to steal intellectual property, usually money or intellectual property. In the ransomware gangs, like in Russia, some of those ransomware gangs have 60 to hundreds of full-time employees. They have, HR departments, they have development teams, they hire on Indeed.com, they have paychecks, they have vacation pay, and things like that. It really, that's the biggest shift, is that it is so professional. It's not these hobbyist kids anymore. It's professional gangs that it's their 9 to 5 day job to break into your companies and your computers and usually, again, steal money. Now, how do the hackers, again, get into you? It's usually one of 3 ways. A lot of times it's because of automated malware. So that's a virus, a Trojan, a worm, or something that somehow breaks into your device or your network, or it could be a human adversary. That's far less common. Really what happens today, and this is the case in about 86% of hacking today, is that the initial access was by this automated malware program. Again, usually it's a Trojan horse program. The person gets tricked into downloading, and then it installs itself on your computer, and then we call it dials home. They don't dial anymore, but over the internet they dial home, and they let the hacker know that they've broken into you. And that is what happens in today. About 86% of malicious data breaches is that you have this combination of this malware that breaks in, gets the initial root foothold, and then the hacker comes in and takes over. As a matter of fact, again, this is kind of today's workflow. If you're falling asleep, pay attention here, because this is important about how it really works. But usually the victim is connected to the internet. They don't always have to be connected to the internet to be compromised, because there's like ransomware gangs that will do things like mail the victim USB keys and they'll claim that those USB keys are from, United States government. You need to run this, a scanner or something, but really it's just bogus. When you plug it in, you get compromised. But usually the victim is connected to the internet, and they get tricked into installing a Trojan horse program, socially engineered into clicking on a link or downloading the document. It installs malware. It can also be because the victim has a missing patch. They're not fully updated, and the attacker breaks in that way and plants the Trojan horse program. Or it could be because they know your password. They can either guess at your password or know your password. Many times the victims have been previously socially engineered out of their passwords, and when the attacker comes up to their systems, you can see they're not guessing. They just go up to a login prompt, put in the login name and password, and they're in. So that is those are the 3 most common ways you get compromised today: social engineering, unpatched software, or they have your password, or they can guess your password. But either way, that Trojan horse program that is placed then modifies the first device that it's on so it can live during a reboot. It usually will collect all your passwords that are in your browser. So if you're ever using a browser and your browser like, do you want us to save your password so we can log you in faster next time? If you do that, the Trojan horse program is normally getting all of those passwords, and then again, dialing home, connecting over the internet to what's called the command and control servers. Those command and control servers are nothing but computers on, otherwise innocent companies. There's thousands and tens of thousands of innocent companies computers and home, people at home that don't realize their computers are participating in this command and control server botnet. They just think their computers are being slow for some reason today. They don't realize they're inside of this large criminal enterprise known as a botnet. But the malware program will connect to the command and control servers, upload the stolen passwords, usually download to at least 2 other additional malware programs, modify the computer, other computers in such a way, the same computer and other computers in such a way that if the antivirus program discovers one of them, the other 2 normally aren't discovered because they're completely different programs. And that way, some people will go, oh, I almost got hit by ransomware, but I found it. But then 2 months later, I got hit really bad again. Well, you didn't get hit bad again. They just, when they got hit the first time and they thought they cleaned it up, they just didn't clean it up well enough. And there's still those other 2 programs around for the hackers to take advantage of. Most of the time, all 3 programs are not found by antivirus, and that's because the developers of these programs monitor all the antivirus engines to see which antivirus engines are starting to detect their creation. There's a website by Google. Google owns a website called VirusTotal. You can go there right now. It's virustotal.com. It runs 83 antivirus engines, including most of the popular ones. And when the malware Trojan horse developer, ransomware developer starts to see 1 or more antivirus programs starting to detect their program, they send a command and tell that program to re-encrypt itself so it's no longer got the same signature. So in this way, most of the malware programs that are installed on people's computers are not found by antivirus. Matter of fact, the average malware program lives for 8 to 12 months on people's networks and computers without ever being detected. They'll spread themselves around, infecting and collecting as many passwords, again, for 8 to 12 months, sometimes years. And then all the people that are typing in passwords at work or even for their home accounts, like if you're going to Amazon, you go to Amazon to buy some garbage bags or something, they now have your Amazon login name and password, could get your credit card information. But during that 8 to 12 months that they've infected your systems, they're collecting that information for anything that you type in. Eventually, the hacker that's either renting, we call them an affiliate these days, or renting or controlling that particular ransomware program or malware program in that company eventually logs in, and when they log into the command and control center computers, they'll actually get a list of all the different networks they've broken into. They get a list by IP address and network name, and then the hacker can kind of pick among the list and decide who they're going into. And a lot of people that have been compromised for months to years go, why did it take the hacker so long to actually, if I was broken into a year ago, why did I just now get ransomware? And that's because you were just on a list of 1,000 other compromised networks and they just got around to abusing your network. But the hacker will look around, they'll start eavesdropping on emails, they'll create email rules that eavesdrop on your email, and the CEO and the business manager's email and any IT personnel's emails that you have. So they're keeping track of what's going on. They're seeing how you make your money. They will download your financial statements. If you have any cyber insurance, they'll actually download your cybersecurity insurance policy and see how much you get reimbursed for if you get hit by ransomware. They'll steal your data, they'll steal passwords. If you have a customer website on site at your network, they'll steal that information. If your kids are plugging into your network, they'll try to steal those login names and passwords. And essentially, they're lurking and collecting as much information as they can. They're trying to find out how you make most of your money. They'll use your computers to send phishing emails to your business partners and customers. So these emails are coming from you, and your business partners or your customers think it's an email from you, but it's like, hey, open this document. It really is just the ransomware people. And again, they're infecting, lots of other networks at the time. The hackers are coming in, assessing everything, stealing whatever they want. And then if they're ransomware people, they'll encrypt your computers and then ask for some sort of ransomware extortion. And let me say, by the way, if you have your data up in the cloud, it's a little bit safer because the hackers have a harder time encrypting the cloud. So you get some safety if you're in the cloud, but they'll, the hackers will try to get what they can and then try to ask you for money or take the information or passwords that they've learned. And that again is how 86% of ransomware and malware works today. That's really how the vast majority of attackers and malware work today. It's this very sophisticated hybrid model of the malware getting the initial foothold access, followed by the human adversary. There's a lot of vulnerabilities we all need to worry about. Like last year alone, there was over 20,000 different things that we could possibly have to patch. Somewhere between 11 to 55 different things that we're told if you were to monitor all the software patching list, 11 to 55 warnings every day saying, if you have this software, you have to patch it. I think the record in one day was like 188 patches were announced in one day. That's the record so far. And that's on top of the hundreds of millions of malware programs trying to break into you and all the different types of hackers that I talked about. Now, you don't need to memorize this list at all, but no matter why the attackers or how they're breaking in, they're using one of these 13 methods. I've been keeping track of this list going on 22 years, and you don't need to memorize it, you don't need to learn it. But if I look at like how do attackers and hackers and malware break into your computers or your networks, this is it. It's one of these 13 ways. But the most important thing, and again, if you're falling asleep here, wake up here, because this is worth its weight in gold. The most common way that hackers and malware break into any system, any network, any company is social engineering, where they trick somebody into clicking on a link that they shouldn't click on, or to revealing their password because they thought they were revealing their password to the right place. That is responsible for 70 to 90% of all attacks today. Unpatched software, where someone hasn't applied an update that they should have applied, is involved in about 20 to 40% of attacks. And then these days, what's called the medium third threat is password issues, where the attacker has learned your password or can guess at your password. Those three causes account for about 90 to 99% of all risk in most environments. And again, social engineering, if you can just teach yourself and your family members and coworkers and employees not to be tricked by social engineering, you're getting rid of 70 to 90% of the risk from all hackers and malware, just doing that one thing. And if you patch your software, update your software consistently, you're getting rid of 90% of the risk at least. And if you have a good password policy, you're getting rid of another 9%. Altogether, again, those three things are 90 to 99% of the risk in most organizations. So you'll hear people telling you that, you need antivirus, you need a VPN, you need a firewall, and you do need that stuff. But these three things are more important than anything else that you will be told. And I'm going to come back to this, but this is so important, because if you don't patch your software and you don't defeat social engineering and you don't figure out your password problems, you're not going to defeat hackers and malware. That is the secret to defeating hackers and malware. Now, some people say, what's phishing? And social engineering. I think most of us are used to these emails where, you get these fake emails claiming to be from somewhere. The examples I have on the screen are from PayPal and one that's claiming to be, I guess, from Microsoft, but they're like, hey, there's some unusual activity going on. You need to log in here and see what it is. Here's a sign in from Nigeria. Was that you? And you're like, no, I didn't sign in from Nigeria. And really, if you were to hover over the link, they're trying to get you to click on that button. But if you were to hover over that link, you would see that the URL link does not point to, in this case, PayPal or Microsoft. It's sending you somewhere else. Or they'll claim to be from, Facebook. Hey, Facebook, where, click here to update your Facebook account. Well, Facebook is in the cloud. You don't need to click there to update Facebook. Or the one behind is trying to look like Twitter. But if it was Twitter, the URL would say twitter.com, but it doesn't say twitter.com. It says webhostapp.com. That's not twitter.com. Or the one at the bottom right there is supposed to look like LinkedIn, but it's not. If you look at the link there, it's llinct.ni. NI is the country code for Nigeria. If it really was LinkedIn, it would say linkedin.com, but it's not. It's going to take you to Nigeria. So that's just a phishing message or email. If you didn't realize that, you might be taken to the wrong place. There's a lot of phishing that goes on in social media. I think we're all used to being on Facebook or Instagram and getting these really weird messages, sometimes from our friends, saying, look here, click on this or whatever, and they're just fake. Usually, our friends' accounts have been compromised. and and then the other people are trying to trick us into clicking on something. Sometimes they even go, watch this video. Here's a video of this kid crashing his $1 million Lamborghini. And what people don't know is that a lot of times those videos are social engineering attacks, and if you get tricked into clicking on them, then they can they can steal your passwords or take over your account. If any video tells you to install something to watch the video, don't do it. It's malicious. You shouldn't have to install any software or any browser extensions to watch a video. Fake invoices are very common these days. Like, this is an invoice I got when I was working for for 15 years, I was the InfoWorld weekly security columnist, and I got this email claiming to be that I had to pay a shipping invoice from Maersk. Maersk is the world's largest shipping and container company. Well, I can see this email really is, if it was from Maersk, it'd be Maersk.com. But really it's saying onlinealex.com.pl for Poland. It's not Maersk.com. But more importantly, I was just a writer. I don't approve invoices. This was fake, but billions of dollars are being stolen every year by people getting tricked by fake invoices. It's the #2 money theft behind ransomware today. And it's been a big problem for a long time and will continue to be a big problem. We're starting to see a lot of examples of what's called smishing or SMS-based phishing. These are real-world examples of phishing attacks I've gotten on my cell phone. The one in the top right there is claimed to be from Wells Fargo. Your account has been locked. Well, I'm not a Wells Fargo customer, so I knew it was fake, but Wells Fargo is one of the largest banks in the world, and so there's bound to be lots of people that if they got that particular phishing message would go, oh my God, I've got to find out what that is. And of course, you don't know where that link is going to take you. You can't hover over it. It's what's called a short link, and it turns into something else, and you don't know until you click on it. On the bottom right there, that's a phishing attack, SMS smishing attack that my friend Stephanie got. She got one of these typical, you weren't home, so we couldn't deliver the package. I think all of us have probably gotten these fake messages claiming to be from FedExpress or DHL or something like that. We're like, oh, we tried to deliver this package, but she sent this to me. She said, Roger, I think this is a phishing message. And let me say, I went to the link, it was, but she said they have my name. How do they know what my name is? And I'm like, anybody can look up your telephone number and name today. But she, the hacker did that, put her name so that she'd feel more comfortable that it was from a legitimate service, but it wasn't. It was just a phishing scam. Human adversaries, when they break in, hackers, what they do is try to find out what software your computer is running. They have these tools, like one called Nmap, Network Mapper, and you can run it against anybody's computer and network, and it will tell you the different software versions that people are running. And then you can go look to see if there's any of them that are unpatched. The version number will tell you whether it's patched or not. And then you can go to the vendor's website and find out what patches they had and what holes are there. And then there's websites all around the world, like this one here, Exploit-DB, has over 44,500 exploits where I can go, oh, I need to break into Windows, I need to break into Apple, I need to use this exploit. And then I, as an attacker, can download this and break into your computer if you don't have all your patches applied. And there's lots of these tools for free around the network, around the internet. Here's another one from a website called Metasploit, and you can see they have exploits that will break into Mac and WordPress websites and Oracle databases, and they're just literally dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of these websites that anybody can use to download hacking tools that will break them. And here's another freely downloadable tool called Mimikatz. If I'm an attacker and I break into a Windows machine, I can download their people's passwords using this tool. It's been around for dozens of years. Here's another really popular hacking tool that you can go to PowerShellEmpire.com and download this tool, but it literally has 285 different hacking tools in it, modules that can be used to break into Mac and Windows and Linux and Google Chrome desktops. Computers, and they're just free. Anybody around the world can go download these tools. Like, here's one where it says, one of the things here, hey, I can record your audio, or I can turn on your web camera or something like that and record you without you knowing about it. Or on Linux, I can keylog, I can record your passwords and stuff like that. A lot of people think that having what's called multi-factor authentication and SMS may save you, but if I know that you have, if your account can be recovered using SMS, I can use that against you. Like, if I know you have a Gmail account, I can claim to be from Google Security. that we've detected a rogue sign-in to your account, and in order to determine a legitimate login, we're going to send you a verification code that you need to type back in response to this message, or we're going to lock your account out. And then the attacker just goes to Gmail, to Google, puts in your email address, says they forgot your password, says send me the reset code using SMS. The hacker does this. All they know is your email address and phone number. Again, anybody can look that up. And then Google will send them the message. And if they respond in response to this message, it's game over and they're in. Or I can just claim, like, suppose I know that you have a bank account and that bank account's password can be reset with an SMS code. I can send you a message like, hey, there's been a water main break in your area. Don't drink water until further notice. We apologize for the inconvenience. Would you like to be enrolled in our program so we can tell you when the water main is when the water main is fixed? Yes. Well, we're going to send you a confirmation code. And then what they're doing is actually resetting your bank account or your stock account's password. You get sent the code, and if you respond with that code, it's game over. They're in your bank account or stock account. All you thought you were doing is subscribing to some service so you could find out when the water main was fixed. So considering all these different ways that hackers can attack you, how can you defend yourself? Well, here you go. This is it. Pay attention here. This is the secret. This is 34 years of my brain going in to tell you how you protect yourself. Number one, mitigate social engineering. Stop social engineering however you can. Stop from being tricked. Stop your family, your friends, and your coworkers from being tricked on clicking on links that they shouldn't click on, or from downloading things that they shouldn't download, or giving their passwords to the wrong person. Make sure you patch any of your software. If your software, whether it's Windows or Mac or whatever, says patch the software, you need to patch your software as long as you know that it's the real thing telling you to patch your software. Never let a website tell you to patch your patch. If you go to a website and it says that you need to patch your software, close out the website and see if your computer is still telling you to patch it. But if your computer is telling you to patch it, patch it. If you can, use multi-factor authentication wherever you can. That could be something like where you have a phone where you get 4 or 6 digit code, or you have some type of USB key or biometrics. Try to use MFA where you can. Where you can't use MFA, which is most places, you're going to need to use a password. That password should be non-guessable, and it should be different for every website in service. And then teach yourself and everyone around you how to spot those rogue URL links that are those phishing attacks. Learn how to tell the difference between a good attack and a bad attack. If you download, I'm going to send and give this webinar web deck to anyone that wants to get it. That first link there is an article where I discuss the top 12 most common rogue URL tricks, and the last link is a 1-hour webinar that I teach on just how to tell the difference between a good URL and a bad URL. If you want to know everything you can do to stop phishing, if you care about that, every single thing my brain could think of, I've got a 1-hour webinar with 99 slides that talks about everything that I could think of to stop from being phishing attacks, socially engineered. Or if you want to read a 49-page ebook, I've got that there. My wife says that 49-page ebook will put you to sleep. I think choose your poison. If you're interested in learning everything that you can do to stop phishing, it's in one that you can watch me or you can read that book. But the goal of what we try to do to teach ourselves and our employees is how to spot bad things, because no matter how good your defenses are, some amount of that badness of phishing emails and smishing emails are going to get to people. And you need to teach people how to spot something that's bad, and then how to respond, which is to report it to IT or to or something like that, or to delete it, at least at the very least. This is what I like to tell people, is that if you get any message that arrives unexpectedly, whether it's through email or SMS or voice call or something, no matter how the message arrives, if it's an unexpected message, you were not expecting it, it starts to be skeptical. And is the sender asking you to perform a new action for the first time? So even if you recognize the person, are they telling you to do something that sender's never asked you to do, to download this document, to click on this link? That's kind of suspicious, especially if that request has a you need to do it now, like you need to do it now or you're going to miss out on the discount, or you're going to lose the business, or you're going to be locked out of your account. And if performing that request, if it's malicious, could hurt you or your organization's interest, well, don't do it. Confirm it another way. Go directly to the real website or call the person before you perform that request. If you teach yourself and your friends and your family and your coworkers to go, any message that has these 4 traits, just don't do. If you're interested in so this is a really cool poster. You go to this link here and you can download what's called the Red Flags of Social Engineering. It teaches the 22 most common signs of a social engineering email. This is a PDF that you can print up and read and send to other people. I even have what's called the Red Flags of URLs. Talks about the 12 most common tricks that hackers use to do these rogue URL links. And again, you can download this, print it up, send it to anybody. And I'm going to end. I'm running out of time to tell you this is my password policy advice, that you should try to use multi-factor authentication. And again, that's, you know, the phone or some type of device or biometrics or something, wherever you can. Where you can't, you need to use a different password that's unique for every website and service. And I actually recommend a password manager. If you've ever heard of those programs, they can create these really random looking passwords and use them. You don't have to remember them at all, because a 12-character perfectly random password defeats all known password guessing cracking attacks. But human created passwords, if you create your password, they actually have to be pretty long, up to 20 characters. I have friends who are routinely guessing and cracking 16 and 18 character passwords, human created passwords, every single day. So if you want your password to be uncrackable, unguessable, it has to be 20 characters, or what we call a pass phrase or a pass sentence, like, you know, Roger jumped over the blue cow. So use MFA where you can. Where you can't, try to see if you can use a password manager, because they create random little passwords. And then, you know, where you can't, if you have to use a human created password, you should use a passphrase instead of a password. With that, I've run out of time. I've run a minute past my 40 minutes. We're going to take some questions and answers, and David's going to talk. And if you know, if you want to email me for a particular technical question, or David, if you want to get me, I'm at rogerg@noble4.com. You can follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter. But with that, I want to turn it over to Dave.
Roger, you covered just an amazing amount of information in a short amount of time, and I thought it was wonderful. And I wanted to, again, from a vendor perspective, right? I am the cloud to our customers, right? So they rely on us to offer the security. And I want to kind of hit off on those 4 key points that you kind of finished off with, which was the social engineering, the patching, the MFA, and the know before training, and how that applies to our cloud. And so if I start off with social engineering, the way that our cloud is built is that it's protected from us as if we were being social engineered, right? So if somebody who works for IDS goes to try to log into the cloud, we put a gap in between. So even if their local machine has been compromised, if their password has been compromised, that does not allow them to jump into the cloud environment to then extend that compromise. So we put in
Dave, real quick, I just want to say I'm a big fan of the cloud because of that. You know, like I've become a bigger fan. Some people are like, oh, should I go in the cloud? Should I haven't? The cloud is proven in attack after attack to be a really good place to have your data because of exactly what you said. I'm a huge proponent of the cloud.
Excellent. And again, it's often, it drives the belief that because it's somebody else is managing it, that they won't manage it as well, right? But on the other hand, for us, that's all we do. That's all we do. We focus on just managing that thing really well. So it gives us that dedicated focus. The second part you mentioned was the patching. And of course, we patch our environment. So we do patching as part of regular maintenance. We patch everything. Last summer, we went through an exercise of actually ensuring every one of our machines are upgraded to the latest version of Windows and with the latest patch versions. So we do kind of do a lot of the stuff behind the scenes to ensure that our environment never falls stale. And again, myself, amongst many others, we also watch out for those notifications on releases of new vulnerabilities that are identified. And then we make sure that we have mitigation plans or we patch it immediately. And obviously mitigation often is if that risk is available only to machines directly facing the internet, and then none of our machines are directly facing the internet, we have one phase of mitigation. We use firewalls, which, and again, the way I kind of explain a firewall is if I didn't ask for it, it's not allowed to come back, right? So if I'm on my home computer and I go to YouTube and I click on a video link, I'm expecting to get the video link back. But if I didn't click on anything and I just get a video link, that's a bad thing, right? That's where somebody else is taking action. So a firewall is really looking at who asked for what and only returning what you asked for. right? So our environments, of course, firewalls and all the other bits of protection on top of the patching. The third one you mentioned, which is MFA, and that one's a little bit more complicated, but we use MFA internally for access into like our Azure environments and so on. We do have a higher degree of security within our environment to make sure we don't have creep within our environments. But within regards to our product, we're working towards offering MFA as part of our again IDS cloud solution. But again, it's a little bit of a progression. It does require a little bit more finesse to make sure that it
You're
works
not
more
alone.
effectively.
You're not alone, right? I always tell people like 99% of the world doesn't work on MFA today. It's definitely everybody's trying to get there, right? Everybody. But you're not
Yeah.
alone.
And I'm noticing like places like even like my Gmail account, like they're trying to push for having an additional way of verifying it. Like, so it seems like the industry's creeping towards that, which I think is also a good thing. And then the last part you mentioned was the know before training about having that courses. And again, all of IDS, we use this training platform, and we receive these new training notifications on a regular basis. So we actually make sure that our employees are well aware, prepared, and also tested, that we also don't bite on these phishing attempts. And I would say that these phishing attempts, they're brilliant. Some of them are really, really sneaky. And again, I haven't been doing the security stuff for as long as Roger has, but you know, I'm closer to about a quarter century. And in that time frame, I've been compromised twice. And I know I'm the one who taught my kids, and I got burned during, again, Christmas time. I just did an upgrade of my internet. I made some changes with my internet provider. I got a little notification because they were compromised, and the notification came from their service, but it had a redirect to another link. And they're like, hey, because you just did this upgrade, we wanted to reward you with a free tablet. It's around Christmas time. I'm like, oh, it's not bad. And I knee-jerked, clicked on the link, and I'm like, oh, it actually looked pretty good. And the way that they hid the redirect was that they spoke, it's the same name as my internet provider, but they had like one extra A in there. And so when you look at it by quick scan, you wouldn't pick up that it was the wrong website. And I got as far as actually to order a second device while getting my free device, and I put it in my credit card, and then when I clicked the link, it paused and it failed. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. And then I started to be a little bit more critical, and it took me about 20 seconds to realize that I did a bit of from my education, I did a bit of a bonehead move, and so I canceled my credit card that night. I had to call the vendor, let them know that they'd been compromised. They were aware. It was a hot mess, but you know, even with all of my training and all my experience, that's how they managed to get in. You know, the FBI was compromised last year. Their mail services were duped. So it's not that everyone's beyond it. It is being keenly aware all the time. And as Roger said, it's, you know, be skeptical. Don't believe that it's good. You know, you can trust, we have to verify would be a good practice. And those are all things that, again, as a vendor, that they're all built into our core disciplines. And again, looking at time, I want to make sure we give some time for questions. So if anyone has questions for either Roger or myself, please feel free.
And David, you were sharing the time where you got, you know, compromised. I think it's really good that you shared that story, right? Because we can all be compromised. I can be compromised, and let me say that the know before stuff that we go through, I've actually failed a bunch of tests over my 4 years. I don't want to tell you how many, but I think I got so embarrassed that I think I'm really truly harder to compromise today than before. I think before I thought, I'll recognize them any, but they sent me some sneaky ones like you're talking about. I went, oh, yeah. I can be compromised. And so it makes me, you know, I'm hyper aware now of every email and message, and, you know, here's a patch to install. It's really hard to fool me now because I've been tested and embarrassed. You know, so hopefully I'm harder to attack than I used to be, but I no longer think I used to think, oh, you can't fool me. Now I know, like, yep, I can be fooled, and that helps me change the way that I think and approach things. I'm more cautious.
Yeah, I would say not only for I had that event, and again, I do actually look for those emails, the phishing attempts, in my inbox, so I actually do look and read, and I try to critique every one of them. I try to flag every one I catch that I think is a little bit not descriptive enough or a little bit inaccurate. But I'm going to give just quickly a verbal example of social engineering because it's not just email. For almost a decade, I worked for BlackBerry, and this is kind of during their heyday. They were really big, and I worked in technology supporting R&D. And one of our testers got compromised in a chat forum where they were talking about software and like, will BlackBerry be successful or not? And somebody wrote and put in the chat, and they said, well, BlackBerry will never support using a Mac laptop as your machine because there's a lot of Windows-only software. And this tester was working on that software and he's testing it, and he got kind of goaded into a back and forth where they would post a little bit of information but with a lot of errors, and they would let him correct the errors, and they kind of just kept poking at his ego. Oh, you don't know about that. You couldn't possibly know. And so they were very dismissive, but it was targeted. And over time, they kind of wore him down where he was always trying to prove that he was right. And he ended up, publishing and uploading, alpha and beta software to a public forum that got downloaded by millions of people. That beta software was logging enhanced data from people, which is a breach of data privacy, which was not BlackBerry's intent. And so then BlackBerry had to notify all these people, hey, you've been, duped, took some bad software. It was terrible. But again, this was that social engineering where it's just a little bit of ploy to get you engaged, get you into the conversation, get you to try to answer something, to drive a sense of urgency behind it. And so I really think any email that triggers an emotional response is one that you have to question.
Yep.